Lucy Letby, serial killer. Why did she kill? Part 2. It is clear from the reaction of many people that they struggle to understand the disconnect that exists between how this outwardly ordinary woman, who doted on her parents, had a good job, her own home and an active social life, and was godmother to 2 children, decided to start killing and harming the babies she had dedicated her career to looking after. People are unable to get a toehold to understand how could somebody do this? How could somebody take the lives of premature and newborn children, innocent, vulnerable children, and so readily extinguish their lives? They struggle to reconcile acts which are described as evil with the woman that appeared before them. It remains the case that so many people expect such individuals like Letby to appear evil, which of course is rarely the case. Most killers are often ordinary in appearance, with neighbours shocked to learn that the quiet, unassuming person who lived at number 23 turned out to be a serial killer. It is evident that people take their cues from film and television portrayals, which people forget are about creating atmosphere, tension, engagement, and entertainment. This creates a false picture of what many killers, particularly serial killers, look like. Notwithstanding this, Lucy Letby appeared even more ordinary than most, save she has now been convicted of killing several babies and attempting to murder several more. Letby, the vanilla killer, is worthy of examination to ascertain how someone on the surface appears to be ordinary and bland, but has now achieved such a level of notoriety, having been convicted of the murder of several babies. In order to understand why she has killed, we need to understand what she is. And to understand what she is, we need to look at the evidence that gives us a picture of how she behaves, has behaved, what her life is like, how she's conducted herself. And therefore we begin with Lucy Letby's childhood and early life. Her life appeared to begin shrouded in love. Letby was born in Hereford on January the 4th, 1990, to furniture salesman Mr. Letby, who was then aged 44, and accounts clerk Mrs. Letby, then 29. From the material that I have examined, there doesn't appear to be any suggestion that her parents are abusive, and therefore it is questionable whether any pathological disordered individual was in the immediate family network. Young Lucy grew up doting on her pet cats. Having an involvement with animals often suggests the presence of emotional empathy. And watching Disney movies, she still kept her Snow White ornament in her home and revealed that her career dream was, "I've always wanted to work with children." To the friends that she grew up with, Lucy Letby was thought of as Mary Poppins, a mothering figure who carried a rucksack full of remedies for any eventuality, plasters for cuts, antiseptic wipes for grazes, and spare tampons. This sounds like a helpful, compassionate, caring individual exhibiting emotional empathy, and seems particularly at odds with a woman who has been convicted of murdering babies. Perhaps this was quite simply cognitive empathy that was being demonstrated. Described as straight-laced, Letby attended the Evangelical Hope City Church and a close circle of churchy friends, 5 girls who self-styled themselves the Mismatches while studying for their A-levels at Hereford Sixth Form College. Their social media pages were full of pictures of the clique larking around in the sunshine outside Hereford Cathedral and enjoying a final holiday to Greece together before they all flew the nest and went off to universities around the country. Accordingly, Letby had stayed the course in terms of education. There's nothing to report that she was a troublesome pupil at school. One former friend explained, It was a massive shock when Lucy was arrested. When I knocked about with her in school, there were no red flags about her character. She seemed very normal, very straight. The mother of another close pal said, "She was a happy girl, part of a close-knit group. There were no boyfriends, well, not that I knew of anyway." Letby worked hard, combining her studies with a part-time job at W.H. Smith in the city, and her parents were immensely proud of her when she became the first in their family to go to university. The impression that many have given of her was the same, a young woman who was kind, gentle, and considerate to the needs of others. Again, this seems to presuppose the existence of emotional empathy, or is this someone with a very good facade? She had, as one school friend remembered, a joyful and peaceful aura that just made everyone around her happy and comfortable. No tales of saying that she had an emptiness. No suggestions of bad behavior, arguments, getting into fights, getting into trouble with the law. But somebody that had a joyful and peaceful aura. That sounds like the kind of outlook that would come with someone who was empathic. Growing up in the cathedral city of Hereford on the Welsh Marches, Letby was a shy, studious schoolgirl who had always wanted to be a nurse. It doesn't appear that she's exhibiting any grandiosity or haughtiness here. She attended the state secondary Ayleston School before moving to Hereford Sixth Form College at 16, where the singer Ellie Goulding had been a pupil 3 years earlier. Quietly spoken with a faint Welsh accent, Letby was not one of the popular girls, but nonetheless had a small group of college friends. Neighbours remember Letby as a sweet girl who was a delight for her parents. Jade Thomas, aged 33, a friend from Aylestone who likened her to Mary Poppins, said Letby's decision to become a nurse came as no surprise because from her mid-teens she would often talk about children's health and development. She was definitely focused and career-driven from even such a young age, but if there was an opportunity to go out with someone, I don't think she would have turned it down because she wanted to settle down and have a husband and children of her own, Thomas said. After passing her A-levels, Letby took up a place to study nursing at Chester in September 2008, as mentioned, becoming the first person in her family to go to university. Her parents, John, 77, a retired finance manager, and Susan, 63, an accounts clerk, were thrilled for their only child. When she graduated, they put a notice in the Hereford Times that read, "We are so proud of you after all your hard work. Love Mum and Dad." She graduated in 2011. At university, Letby was part of the quiet bunch, although she obviously enjoyed the freedom living away from home afforded. While her social media posts showed her enjoying cocktails with friends on nights out, larking around a lap dancing pole and pulling funny faces for the camera, her contemporaries remembered a geeky and slightly awkward student who was focused on her dream of becoming a nurse. "She was very bright," one said. "She was really sweet, kind and friendly, and always part of the quiet bunch. I was so shocked when she was arrested. She loved her job, and when she and her friends were in university, they all worked so hard and were all driven and excited." Again, praise for a quiet, hard-working, kind and conscientious individual. No tales of raucous nights out, no tales of sexual promiscuity, no tales of cheating in examinations. Somebody who appears to be recognizing the boundaries, someone that's exhibiting emotional empathy, someone that appears to show empathic traits. Her parents have always remained together also. There has not been an impact of any kind of divorce on Letby that might have created a lack of control environment. Her parents have always been supportive of her. She was not exposed to neglect or abuse. More about her parents later. There's no history of being troublesome at school, having early brushes with the law, no antisocial conduct or behaviour. No unpleasant behaviour towards animals. Indeed, she appeared to love them. As part of a cohort of 40 students, Letby took a course in general nursing in her first year at university before specialising in children's nursing for her second and third years. Carla Jones, 36, who studied with her for the first year, said Letby was always that bit more reserved than her peers. She was very hard-working and was quiet. I didn't feel like I knew her. Another course mate, who asked not to be named, described her as bright and devoted to her studies. He said that unlike many of her fellow students, she would only occasionally go out and drink, and was always the one who went home early. So it would appear that she exhibits accountable behaviours, not getting arseholed, not having late nights. Her colleagues believed she was a dedicated nurse. Few suspected the self-confessed career-driven Letby of having the hand in the deaths and collapses of babies. Mary Griffith, a nurse for 43 years before retiring in 2016, said Letby was knowledgeable, caring and thorough during the time she worked alongside her. Shift leader Chris Booth also described her as a conscientious, excellent and hard-working member of staff. She was also friendly with the babies' parents, making cards for them on Mother's and Father's Days, helping them bathe their newborns and even messaging them on Facebook to see how their children were doing once they went home. One, whose son was cared for by Letby, said, "I met her a few times. She was completely normal. I would never have thought in a million years that she could have done something like this. She was not the chattiest nurse there, quite reserved, but I would never have suspected her." Another mother, whose son was in the unit for 7 weeks, said, "I remember her very well, and I could not have asked for a more caring and helpful nurse. She helped me give my son his first bath. All I can say is my experience is that she was a great nurse. I talked to her loads of times, and she was really, really lovely." One nurse, who shared a flat with her in hospital accommodation, said Letby didn't appear like a monster. As I said to the police, "She was absolutely fine to live with," she said. "I couldn't believe she had done what she had done. She was quiet, but she wasn't a loner. She was out all the time. I had very little contact with her. She was either at work, out, or in her room. We'd say hi, bye, have a little conversation, like you would do with a flatmate, and that it was really nothing out of the ordinary. Everyone thinks I'm going to say that she was some kind of monster, but she wasn't. It was a bit of a shock when she was arrested." So far, the information that we have is perhaps as far removed as we might ever have examined anybody under the Tudor so far. You'll recall from further examinations childhood tales of parents who've divorced, beatings, abuse, being made to do things that the child couldn't have a decision in, growing up with abusive parents where perhaps one beat the other, of being moved from pillar to post, of people talking about promiscuous behaviours, of showing off, of seeking attention. None of this has been described or anything close towards Letby. If you look and revisit any of the other Tudorscope examinations of famous people and infamous people, you will have found far more red flags than associated with Lucy Letby. Indeed, not only is there the complete absence of red flags in the information examined so far, that it positively supports someone that was well-liked, that appeared to exhibit emotional empathy, took responsibility for her behaviours, was accountable in the way that she conducted herself, and was well-liked by those around her. She was well-liked by friends, by family, by colleagues, by her flatmate. And yet, this is a woman who has been convicted of attempting to murder children and murdering babies, an act which clearly smacks of having no emotional empathy whatsoever. It does not sit with the picture that has been painted so far. Does this mean that Lucy Letby actually was a decent person with emotional empathy and something happened to her to cause her to lose that emotional empathy to go on the serial killing spree that she did? Or perhaps she was just somebody that managed a brilliant facade that took in everyone around her. We will learn more in part 3.